I have in this video for you 7 reasons that maybe you shouldn't move to St. Johns County, Florida. Listen, St. Johns County, Florida is amazing. It's awesome. I believe it's got something for everybody, but just like tea isn't for everybody, think Ted Lasso, yuck, acting skills. St. Johns County may not be your cup of tea. It may not be for you. And so I'm going to give you 7 things to think about, 7 reasons why maybe you shouldn't move to St. Johns County, Florida. And actually, I'm going to throw in a bonus number 8 as well at the end. That might not be a big deal to a lot of people, but for some people, it may make them decide, hey, maybe Orlando or Central Florida is a better alternative than St. Johns County, Florida. St. Johns County has been growing like crazy. And that brings me to reason number 1 that you might want to reconsider moving to St. Johns County, Florida. And this is going to be a big deal or not a big deal, probably depending on where you're moving from. But because of the growth, infrastructure is on the way to keeping up, but it hasn't completely kept up. And a lot of times in a lot of areas, we struggle with, you know it, you don't love it, traffic. And actually pulling out of my neighborhood sometimes onto County Road 210, when I'm going to make a left, I've actually started to call it traffic roulette because I don't know sometimes of day if it's going to take me 5 minutes to get where I'm going or 35 minutes to get where I'm going. Now, that might be a slight exaggeration, but from time to time, it is taking me substantially longer than it used to. And a lot of that's because a new high school opened up across the street and traffic patterns have all changed. And there's just a spot where it's 4 lanes, then it narrows down to 2 lanes and then goes back to 4 lanes again. And they're in the process of widening out those 2 lane spots to make it 4 lanes all the way through. And that should eliminate the problem. But right now on 210, up by Shearwater, by Beacon Lake Beach Walk, there are pockets where just a lot of traffic sometimes. Now, thankfully, I work in a job where I can kind of massage the times that I'm leaving the house. And so I know when to go and when not to go. But once in a while, you get stuck in something. Now, again, depending where you're moving from, this is going to be Austin, you're being a big baby, or, oh my gosh, Austin, that sounds awful. And I say that because I lived up in Connecticut for a little while, used to travel across the George Washington Bridge. I did traveling industrial sales. And when they were de-icing the bridge or just who even knows why half the time, you could be sitting in your car for 1, 2, 3 hours, just sitting there waiting for something to happen, hoping that you had enough gas in the tank that you didn't run out of gas on the side of the road. So I completely understand that. And actually, when we moved from New York, we had moved to North Carolina at the time. And I went from all that traffic to a little tiny bit of traffic in like the Winston-Salem, Greensboro area. And man, when I got stuck in traffic for like 10 minutes and people are complaining about traffic, I'd be like, it's no big deal. What are you complaining about? But how long did it take me? 6 months, a year of living in that area before I started getting stressed out over the 15 and 10-minute traffic waits. And so moving from New York, you may be like, Austin, you're being a baby, deal with the 15, 20 extra minutes of traffic here and there, but give it time. It'll frustrate you too. Maybe, maybe not. But number 1, traffic. Number 2 is pretty easy to see, and that is home prices and home prices here, especially in northern St. John's. In southern St. Johns County, you can actually get a little bit more or quite a bit more house for the money. But here in northern St. John's, where Nocatee and Beacon Lake and Shearwater and Beach Walk and Rivertown, where all these neighborhoods are, the price of homes per square foot and just in general is quite a bit higher and definitely higher than you have just north of us in Jacksonville proper or in Duval County. There is a lot of benefit for living in St. Johns County. St. Johns County school system has been number 1, number 2 in the state of Florida for years and years and years and years. And so that is a huge plus. That's a huge reason for moving to St. Johns County. But because so many people are flocking here for that, there's more demand. And so basic supply and demand, the prices go up. Also, that said, even though the price you pay is higher here, when you go to sell your house, people coming in to buy your house are going to pay that higher price as well. So, yes, it definitely costs more to get into a house here. But then if you decide to ever leave here, I don't know why, maybe it's the traffic. Uh, then that negative becomes a positive for you as people pay more for your house than they would in another county. Number three is related to home prices, but even adding certain things to your house, the prices have shot up as well here. I remember, gosh, maybe even 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you could put a brand new pool in with a screen and everything around it for 50, $60,000 for a nice, good sized pool. Now you're starting with the screen, you're starting at $100,000 easy all day long. So if you want to put in a pool, if you want to put in a patio, if you want to do an outdoor kitchen and things like that, because there's been so much demand, and I think a lot of it was during COVID when people were staying at home. Everyone decided, hey, instead of using the community pools, we're going to do our own thing in our backyard. That created a lot of demand. And of course, again, supply and demand, the prices have gone up and the prices of materials have gone up. And if you live anywhere in the world, I guess right now, you know that prices for a lot of things have gone up. So here you're looking at uh, not only a higher price for a home compared to surrounding counties, but you're also going to be paying, and I think this is true in all of Northeast Florida and probably all of Florida anyway. So not just St. Johns County, but the price of putting in outdoor living for yourself, a pool, a screened in area, a patio, an outdoor kitchen, anything like that. The prices of those have gone up substantially over the last 4 years or so. Moving into number four, and just really, really quick before I hit number four, I just want to remind you to please hit the subscribe button, that little bell thing. So when I do put out another video, you get notification and you can watch that. And if you are thinking at all, even just maybe way down the road, you're thinking, hey, maybe all these things Austin's talking about today, it's not so bad. And we still want to consider moving to Northeast Florida. Hopefully I haven't scared you away. Uh, Give me a call. Fire me a text message. We'll set an appointment. We'll hop on Zoom. We'll talk to each other like this, except for you'll be able to talk back to me. We'll be able to talk back and forth, and I can learn more about your goals. And we just have a conversation about your possible move here. But enough about that. Let's just keep going on to number four. And number four is pretty obvious. It's hot and it is humid here, especially in the summertime. And I want to say, really, things probably start in May. It starts getting pretty hot. Then you hit June, it's getting pretty hot and humid. July, oh my gosh, so hot, so humid. But really, August and September for me seem to be about the worst of it. And this August, we had probably, I might be overstating this at this point now, because looking back, sometimes we magnify things, but I want to say it was about 2 weeks where we're having heat warnings and it was 115 degrees heat index. So not 115 degrees, but when they add the humidity and do all of that together, for you northerners, it's kind of like up north, we have the, what's it called? The, wind, shoot, the, it feels like it's colder than it is. And I can't remember what it's called right now. I've been in Florida for way too long, but we have the heat index here, the wind chill. Wind chill up there will take the temperature and drop it. Down here, we have the heat index. And so it takes the heat and adds the humidity. It's what it feels like. It felt like 115 degrees for like 2 weeks, and it was stinking hot. I was so thankful for the AC. But the heat and the humidity, if you can't handle that and you can't get out of Dodge for a couple months, then gosh, you really shouldn't be thinking about Northeast Florida or Florida at all whatsoever. Now, that said, everything's air conditioned here. Just about everywhere you go, you have air conditioning. So that is a definite plus. You will notice when you're driving and you got that cool air blowing on you. If you're like me and you wear glasses, when you get out of the car, phew, these things fog right up. Or if you're like my wife and she's got curly hair, she always complains because she spends all that time with the flattening iron, getting it all to look nice on date night. And then we're sitting out by the water somewhere having dinner. and slowly her hair starts to do this. And hey, she's beautiful all the time. So I think it looks great, but she doesn't seem like such a big fan of that. So if you're thinking about Florida, I know you've already thought about heat and humidity, but it does get really hot here. That said, in the winter, if you don't want any cold at all whatsoever, Northeast Florida actually gets a little bit chilly. It gets a little bit cold. We have probably 2, 3 nights a year where the temperature drops significantly below zero. Say significantly below zero. That's my Canadian coming out. Below 32 degrees Fahrenheit into the high 20s sometimes. So not typically a danger of pipes bursting or anything like that. But it does get fairly cold where you're going to want to bundle up, put on a jacket, maybe put on some gloves. I've seen flurries a few times here before, but nothing that's actually stuck to the ground. So weather is something to think about. Again, if you're thinking about Florida, I'm sure you already know about the heat, but want to let you know about some of the cold too. But anyways, I love it. This time of year, we're coming into October right now. It's a high in the 70s today, and it looks like that for the rest of the week. And then we're going to have some 80s and back to the 70s again. And November, December, January, February, that's my favorite time of year to be in Florida. It's beautiful. The weather's nice and cool and crisp, but not like oppressively so. And I don't have to shovel a driveway. So that's a winner for me. And for number 5, this one as well has to do with something being expensive. And I promise you, out of the 7, well, plus a bonus, out of the 8, this is the last one that's going to have anything to do with money. And it has to do with expense, but it also has some other implications as well. So I've separated it out. And that is insurance right now in Florida is just kind of in flux and kind of crazy right now. When I talk about insurance, I mean specifically auto insurance and home insurance. Home insurance is really, really high compared to where it used to be. Auto insurance is pretty dang high. I have teenage drivers at home now. And so that has really shot up my insurance over the last couple of years. So I'm maybe not the best baseline to talk about, but even talking to other people, we do in Florida have quite a few uninsured motorists. And so if there's a wreck with an uninsured motorist involved, that means that the insured driver's insurance ends up paying for things. And over, as it's spread out over everyone in the state, it has driven up the cost of auto insurance. Now, I don't know, compared to where you live right now, it may be the same, it may be more, maybe less. But generally speaking, from what I hear talking to people, is our auto insurance is fairly high here. The other home insurance is definitely high here, although maybe not as crazy as I had thought it was when I moved from up north years and years and years ago. I was expecting astronomical insurance, home insurance bills, and it actually wasn't as bad as I thought. That said, I have seen our bills go up substantially and quickly over the last probably 4 years or so. A lot of the problem is due to roofs here in Florida and roofing companies coming along and saying, hey, we can replace your roof for free. The insurance company will pay for it. We can't pay your deductible, but we'll put a sign in the yard that just costs the amount of your deductible. So there's a lot of insurance fraud, and there's been a lot of issues with sketchy roof companies. And a lot of that's been clamped down on and is still being clamped down on. And so the hope is that insurance is going to even out over the next few years. But when you take that and you take big storms and hail and all the legit things, yeah, there is a cost to insuring homes here. And it's just high right now. So my house right now is 3,200 square feet. It's on the newer side, about 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old now. And we're close to 2,500, $3,000 a year for insurance. So I see everything from, $1,000 to, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 on a larger home. The other place this affects things is when you're buying a house and the roof right now at this point is 10 years or older, it can cause some trouble with getting the house insured. And I've seen roofs as old as 13 years need to be replaced for the new buyers to get insurance on the house. It's not a deal breaker if you're working with an experienced real estate pro. They can definitely help negotiate for both parties, get everything wrapped up in the deal. So there's not a lot of people spend a lot of money out of pocket. But for the deal to close and for the new buyers to be able to get insurance on the house, a lot of times we're seeing now on older homes, a new roof actually has to be put onto the house. If you want to talk to an insurance pro and get more clarification and narrow down on, house type or house area and the actual cost of insurance, would be happy to connect you with a real pro in the insurance industry. Reason number 6 that you might want to reconsider is if you are afraid of reptiles. Well, critters in general, I guess. Everywhere you go, you have some kind of critter around. And down here, we'll start with these tiny little lizards. They go from like this big as the little baby ones, and then they get up to maybe about this big. We're not down in South Florida where they have the big iguanas, and when it gets cold, they're falling out of trees on people and things like that. But we do have these little lizards running around. I actually don't mind them. I have a window right here. I can look outside and see them doing their bobbing up and down thing. And they do this thing with their neck, and it's probably some mating thing. And hopefully I didn't just attract a bunch of lizards that are come running over to my window now as I'm doing that. But yeah, lots of little lizards around. And going from those harmless little lizards, let's talk in size. We've got some bigger lizards here too. I don't know if you know this or not, but in Florida, we have alligators. How do you know if a body of water, a lake, has an alligator in it? Well, the easiest way to tell is you go down and you put your hand in the water. Don't necessarily do that. But if you put your hand in the water and you feel the water and it's wet, then there's a good chance there's an alligator in the water. Haha, really funny. I know. But you just want to assume that any body of water might have a gator in it. So if you got little dogs or like little kids, you don't want to leave them alone playing on the side of a lake. More often than not, I know people come here and they're freaked out about alligators, but you live here for a little while, and you live on a lake, and you look in the back and you see those little eyes floating around. You actually kind of get excited. It's, oh, Fred's here. You'll have a gator living in your pond and you'll get excited about it. And you'll see him sunning across the way, and you leave them alone. They leave you alone. If they're a nuisance, as people can call, and they will come and get them. So going from gators now, we also have snakes. There are snakes in Florida, and there's venomous snakes and there's non-venomous snakes. And everyone talks about the black snakes. They're the good snakes because they eat the bad snakes. There's pygmy rattlers. There's the big rattlesnakes as well. There are cottonmouths, which are also called water moccasins, and those are no good. We want to stay away from those, but you don't see them as often as you might think. I want to say I probably in person see maybe one-ish snake per year that I've lived here. Your experience may be a little bit more, it may be less. There's been at least a 2-year period where I never saw a snake at all. And then another year, you might see 2 or 3 in that year. Some years, maybe they're out more. Maybe you just get lucky or unlucky, depending on your view of things. But there are snakes here in Florida. And then we have some other non-reptilian critters as well. We have armadillos, which are kind of cool to see around. You don't see them a whole lot because they tend to be nocturnal, but they can be a big pain because they like to dig, and they can dig holes near the side of your house, and they start digging under your house, and they can cause some problems with your foundation. My understanding is they're pretty easy to trap. You can trap them, you can have someone trap them and get rid of them. But we have armadillos. There are wild pigs around. So there are a few different types of critters that we have here in Florida. You definitely want to be aware of what's here and what to do when you encounter one of these critters. So reason lucky number 7, and the bonus reason as well. Number 7 is that Jacksonville, St. Johns County, Jacksonville, this whole area, things tend to be really spread out. So if you're looking for someplace that's super walkable, where you can just leave your house and walk to the store, walk to the pub, walk to restaurants, walk to the dry cleaners, whatever, there's not a lot of places where you can live, where you can do that. There are some places where that's very possible, where you can golf cart or walk, or maybe a short bike ride to a lot of conveniences. But just generally speaking, you really need a car here to get around and to get much done. And finally, your bonus drawback to living in St. Johns County is maybe a drawback, and again, maybe not a drawback. But if you travel a lot, JAX, Jacksonville Airport, is actually a pretty accessible and easy airport. My experience has been when I'm shopping for flights, generally speaking, Orlando, flying out of Orlando tends to be less expensive. So I can get flights out of Jacksonville, but most of the time I can get something that's more direct and cost less money out of the Orlando airport. So if you travel all the time and you're looking to save money on flights, then maybe just take a look at Orlando and that area, living a little bit closer to there, rather than closer to JAX, the Jacksonville International Airport. Of course, that seems like kind of a silly reason to not want to be here, but I wanted to cover a bunch of different bases and talk about some reasons that just because they don't matter to me doesn't mean they don't matter to you. So if you've run into some things that you haven't liked about St. Johns County or you have any questions on that, fire them in the comments, reach out to me directly. I would love to shoot another video and talk about more reasons. Even though obviously I love St. Johns County, I love not having taxes. I love that my kids have had a great experience in the school system here. There's so much to love here, and I'd love for you to be here and be my neighbor. But there are some things that you want to think about. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Stay classy, St. Johns County. See you on the next one.